Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of Golden Era.
Over the past 31 years, I've had the joy of traveling repeatedly to many corners of this vast subcontinent that is India. It is amazing to see how landscapes, culture, food, music, dances, and even languages change every few hundred kilometers that you drive. You see the highest mountains of the world, great seas, bountiful rivers, and best of all, a people whose thoughts and heritage go back a few thousand years. Join us on an enthralling journey. I am traveling again across the whole of India to bring you spectacular India. This is one of the greatest true stories of the world. It is also a story about one of the most powerful personalities in all history. Guru Padmasambhava, with his magic and his flamboyant ritual dances, dominated the roof of the world in his time in the 8th century. Indeed, this story is about one of the great miracles in human history, when Guru Padmasambhava, in the power and majesty of his mission, travelled across the highest mountains. He travelled over 2,000 kilometers of inhospitable high-altitude desert to spread the message of the Buddha. These are regions where oxygen is scarce in the thin air and often it is difficult to breathe. Mountains reach for the skies, and even the hundreds of passes he would have had to cross are often higher than 15,000 feet. The great Guru not only crossed these lofty mountains and barren stretches of icy desert, he transformed the people across these lands. Owing to him, the men and women here remain Buddhist till today.
Guru Padmasambhava, he is popularly known as, and also in Tibetan people call him as Guru Rinpoche. It was he who has systematically established Buddhism in Tibet. And he, along with Professor Shant Rakshita, founded the first monastic system in Tibet. Samye Monastery was built. So therefore, in one way, in Tibetans truly treat him as a second Buddha. Reason being, it is he who has taught them Buddhism.
He's the person who's supposed to have come to Ladakh and subdued the demons which this area abounded in and preached Buddhism. And even now there are many places where he is said to have meditated and given religious discourses. And as you might know, the famous Hemis monastery of Ladakh, he is the patron priest of that monastery, ancient monastery.
It was the 8th century. Shanta Rakshita of the Nalanda University was in Lhasa in Tibet. He had been invited to teach Buddhism. There Shanta Rakshita founded the first monastery of Tibet. It was called Same and was based upon the Udantpuri Mahavihara in Bihar. However, Shanta Rakshita found that the people of Tibet were not converting to Buddhism. They remained afraid of the evil spirits which they feared inhabited the mountain passes and the winds. They prayed to these evil spirits to appease them and would not convert to Buddhism. Shanta Rakshita asked the king to invite Guru Padmasambhava to come to Tibet. He felt that he was the one Buddhist teacher who could establish Buddhism in the mountainous regions. Guru Padmasambhava was also of the Nalanda University. At this time, he was teaching in Kashmir. It was at sites like Parihaspura in Kashmir that Vajrayana Buddhism or Tantric Buddhism had developed to its fullest heights. It was this advanced form of Vajrayana Buddhism that the great Guru brought from Kashmir to Ladakh, Spiti, Kinnaur and Tibet.
दिन को उन्होंने जो ये मंदिर बनाया तो रात को भूत प्रेत कैसे तोड़ फोड़ करते थे। तो आचार्य शांति रक्षिता ने उसी बुद्धिचित से करुणा से बहुत विचार किया उसको शांति करने के लिए, उसकी काबू में नहीं आया बेहतर। तो उन्होंने कहा ये आपके जो तिब्बत के जो राक्षस लोग हैं, बहुत पहले लोग, वो बहुत कठोर लोग हैं, मेरे बुद्धिचित से करुणा से ये शांति होने वाला नहीं है। हमारे हिंदुस्तान में एक तंत्रिक का बोधिसत्व है आचार्य पद्मसंभवा, उसको यहाँ नियुक्त करना पड़ेगा, लाना पड़ेगा।
We are at Zojila Pass at 11,400 feet altitude. At this height, the oxygen becomes less in the air and we have to rest for some time to let the body acclimatize to it. It is through here that the great Guru Padmasambhava took Buddhism from Kashmir to Ladakh, Lahaul Spiti, Kinnaur and to Tibet. This road was on an ancient route. It was an artery which came down from the great Silk Route between Asia and Europe. Goods from Maharashtra and Kerala came up to Srinagar through here. We are at Fotula Pass at 13,479 feet altitude between Kargil and Leh. The great Guru would have swept right across this mountainous region, taking Buddhism everywhere. Guru Padmasambhava was known to be a great master of Tantric Buddhism. He used the greater magic of his tantras to subdue the feared demons. He made them defenders of the Buddhist faith. It is believed that when he was consecrating the monastery at Same, he rose into the air to dance the sacred cham. Where his shadow fell, the ground became sacred, and that became the boundary of the monastery. Till today, the cham is practiced everywhere across the Himalayan region to keep the land pure and for Buddhism to prosper.
गुरु रिम्पोचे को तो हम संज्ञा निस्पा बोलते हैं, दूसरे बुद्धा। जहाँ जहाँ कोई बुराइयाँ हो तो हम ये सोचते हैं कि अगर गुरु रिम्पोचे जी का जो मंत्र है ओम आ हूँ मंजा गुरु पद्मा स्थिति हूँ, वो अगर पढ़ें तो बुराइयाँ दूर हो जाते हैं।
He is supposed to have come into this region when Ladakh was still under the very strong influence of Bon, which, as you might know, is spirit is a religion which is close to shamanism, where we worship the spirits which live in the mountains, spirits which dwell in forests, in lakes. And he introduced this more scientific and more humane religion of Buddhism. He preached that. And of course, he met up with very stiff resistance from many sources. But he must have been an outstanding character, must have been a very strong character to have persisted. We tend to imagine that he must have been of Pathan stock to really take on all these massive problems and overcome them. That would be, I think that would be in true keeping with the Pathan's spirit.
So his main contribution is he has successfully, he has persuaded, I think, probably convinced those Buddhists, those born masters to follow or to understand, to make them practice Buddhism.
The Tak Thok Cave Monastery is about 55 kilometers southeast of Leh. It belongs to the Nyingma sect of Buddhists and is believed to have been founded by the great Guru Padmasambhava himself. In his journeys through Ladakh, the great Guru is believed to have meditated in the cave here. The monastery is deeply revered on that account.
उन्होंने ट्रकथोक गोनपा में कई दिन गुजारे और उसमें से पानी निकल आए, वो अपने आप पानी जिसे हम गुरु डुक्षु कहते हैं, बहुत आज भी उसमें पानी है। अगर आप लोग जाके उस छत को अगर टच करें तो उसमें पानी निकल आते हैं। और उन्होंने हमारे दुनिया में शांति के लिए, दुनिया में अमन के लिए और हर किस्म के राक्षस जितने भी दुनिया में उनको ख़त्म करने के लिए बहुत कुछ किया। आज भी हम जब दुश्मन होते हैं तो हम कहते हैं एक गुरु रिम्पोचे का स्टैचू बना लो, या उसका जो थंका है गुरु रिम्पोचे का एक थंका अपने गोम्पा में रख लो, तो वो खुद ब खुद ख़त्म हो जाएंगे।
अंदर का पेंटिंग सब ठीक ठाक है?
ठीक है जी।
वैसे का वैसे। In temples right across Ladakh, there are images of Guru Padmasambhava. He is the beloved second Buddha of the people.
And everybody try to associate most of the ancient monasteries or caves, whatever, try to associate with the Padmasambhava, Especially those yogis, they try to identify, and they feel privileged to go to those caves and meditate there, because it is blessed by the Padmasambhava. So the whole Himalaya is dotted with the Padmasambhava's memories, his footprints, his caves, old ancient temples, where he'd said. But historically, it is very difficult to prove it. But in tradition or the folk tales, it's very, very much popular there.
In the monastic centers of Kashmir, there was great emphasis on meditation in Buddhist practice. In the 4th century, Maitriyanatha and his followers, Asanga and Vasubandhu, developed the Yogacharya school of thought. They believed that the most effective method for the attainment of the truth was through meditation or yoga. Yoga means to become one with the eternal. Mandalas were conceived for the progressive movement towards enlightenment, or the state of Buddhahood. The Buddha is in the center of the mandala, and around him are deities representing different qualities of him. These deities symbolize different stages in the process of the realizing of the truth. Vajrayana Buddhism, also called Mantrayana or Tantrayana, was based upon earlier Buddhist texts and philosophy. However, in earlier thought, nirvana was possible only through many lifetimes of effort. The Vajrayana offered the possibility of nirvana within a single lifetime. The Vajra, from which this school takes its name, stands for both the clarity of a diamond and the striking nature of a thunderbolt. The Vajra also stands for the moment of illumination, which comes upon the seeker like a clap of thunder.
Then later on, when the Mahayana Buddhism further developed into the Vajrayana or Tantric Buddhism, there they try to put these philosophical aspects of the Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, impermanence, how to realize and put into the practice now. Ultimately, Buddhism is not an academic exercise, it is for the practice. Unless until you put into practice, unless until you realize them, and after realizing and experiencing that is thing which Tantric or Vajrayana Buddhism put stress over that. So how to realize this truth now?
The complex rituals, mantras or chants, and mudras or hand movements of Vajrayana Buddhism were codified in the form of tantras. Tantra literally means to carry on knowledge. From the 8th and 9th century till around the 12th century, the system of Yoga Tantra was predominant in eastern India and Kashmir. From here, it spread to Nepal, Tibet, Korea, Japan, and Indonesia. The Himalayan and trans-Himalayan regions continue the rich legacy of the great Buddhist universities. This philosophic belief of the oneness of the whole of creation and the search for enlightenment continues in the mountains till today.
Stories surrounding the life of Padmasambhava parallel those of Gautama Buddha. Like the Buddha, his birth was miraculous. Like him, he was brought up as a prince in the court of his father. Also like Siddhartha, Padmasambhava's father forbade him from seeking a religious life. Padmasambhava's battle with evil spirits in Tibet echoes the original Buddha's battle against Mara. Mara is the personification of the confusions and doubts in our minds. This is the evil which keeps us away from true knowledge. It is the same confusions in the minds of the Tibetans then, which are popularly known as evil spirits.
Himalayan Buddhists believe that Padmasambhava appeared as an 8-year-old child in a lotus blossom floating in Lake Dhanakosha in the kingdom of Udayana. References have been found in literature to an Udayana in the Swat Valley near Kashmir and another Udayana in Bihar. We do not know which one he came from. Nalanda, where he studied, was in Bihar in eastern India. His special nature was recognized by the local king, who married him to one of his daughters, Mandarava. She developed into an advanced practitioner of Tantric Buddhism. Yeshe Tsogyal was his other great consort, later in Tibet. She also became a highly developed practitioner of the Tantras. The main source of knowledge about the life of Guru Padmasambhava is a book which is supposed to have been written by his Tibetan consort, Yeshe Tsogyal. It was lost to the world and was mystically rediscovered in 1346. Stories about the life of Padmasambhava are not agreed about the length of time he spent in Tibet. Some say he was there for 6 months, others say 50 years. We do know that eventually he decided to leave. It is also known that he spent time in many other regions, including Ladakh, Lahore, Spiti, Bhutan, Nepal, and Arunachal Pradesh. It is said that he flew to Bhutan on the back of his favorite consort, Yeshe Tsogyal. He had transformed her into a flying tigress to carry him there.
I think in all legends, saints, they tend to fly from one place to the other on some sort of magic carpets. But I think that could perhaps be due to the fact that in some point of time they would be in Ladakh, in another point of time, as you said, they'd be in Arunachal Pradesh, at another time they would be somewhere on the eastern borders of Tibet. And since the areas are so vast and so incredibly, unimaginably far away, that the locals of that time, they would naturally assume that he must have been flying from one place to the other, which I think was not just flying, it was a question of perseverance and just constant plodding away along the beaten trails. He must have been a totally outstanding man to have left an imprint on in these regions 1200 years, 1300 years down the line, still as much alive today and still as much amidst us today as he was.
In those days, teachings was largely carried out through the oral traditions, and sometimes they write it, and then when they put into writing, these texts are being hidden into the caves or somewhere in the rocks, sometime on the tree hollows. So this is kept because the teaching was so subtle. At the time, the people of the Tibet was not able to understand that. So in coming days, any able person will come, he will dig out or trace out these texts, then made available to the common people. This is called the Terma tradition.
पद्मसंभव जी क्या कि जब फोटो देखेगा या मूर्ति देखेगा वो एक्चुअली वो असली जो वास्तव में वो पंडिता का वेश होना था, लेकिन वो एक राजा के वेश में है अभी। वो इसलिए है तिब्बत के राजा ने उसको रिस्पेक्ट के लिए, आदर के लिए राजा का वेश पहना दिया। इसीलिए आचार्य पद्मसंभव का वेश जो है अभी राजा के किंग के रूप में उसको दिखाई पड़ेगा। न तो बढ़ते पंडित लोग तो दूसरे धोती टाइप का या पीला टाइप का होता था, वो नहीं है ये। आचार्य पद्मसंभव को ना मानने वाले लद्दाख में ऐसा कि बहुत अनुयायी या मंदिर या गुम्फा कोई नहीं होगा। हर एक गुम्फाओं में ऐसे 4 संप्रदाय है, तब भी गुरु पद्मसंभव को तो सब लोग मानते हैं।
There are many books which Guru Padmasambhava is believed to have written. Some of these were held secretly by the Tibetan rulers immediately after they were written. The intention was to make them public later. In the writings of Guru Padmasambhava, it is very clear that he was a revolutionary. He was well versed in traditional Buddhist practices. However, he was a visionary thinker and had very little patience with dull and tedious rituals. He spoke from his own personal experience of the truth. This was truly in the deepest Indian tradition of thought. In Indic philosophy, the written word is considered dead. The truth has to be heard from a guru. Knowledge has to be experiential, rooted in one's own personal self. In other words, the truth may always remain the same, but it has to be relived by each person. Padmasambhava's obvious, very personal experience of the truth would have been the reason for his success. That is why he would have earned the title of the great Guru, Guru Rinpoche,